It's 10 o'clock on Friday, June 27th, 2025. And as usual, a lot of things are going on in the world and around the world. And we'll be talking about those things on World Edition. Among those stories are that Japan has executed Takiro Shirashi, also known as the Twitter Killer. So Japan executes a man dubbed the Twitter Killer, convicted serial killer who murdered and dismembered nine people. So that is one of the stories coming out of Japan. Thailand has banned recreational cannabis sale requiring prescriptions. So that's something else that is coming out of the Asian world. So Thailand is started banning the sale of cannabis without a prescription. So definitely looks like the Thailand's weed wild west is facing new rules as smuggling to UK rises. So that is something else that we're seeing as well. The son of Norway's crown princess has been charged with rape and sexual assault and bodily harm. So that is something coming out of the European side of the world and all along those lines. And battling to survive, Hamas faces defiant clans and doubts over Iran. So definitely that is something going on in the Middle East and around that way as well. And Russia seizes a key lithium field in a challenge for a U.S. Ukraine mineral deal. So that's something that will be talked about as well. So it definitely looks like they have seized a key part of that mineral deal. And flood leaves six dead and thousands displaced in China. So it looks like they had some very severe weather in that area and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, USA Today had an article where there was a video showing a girl being pulled from the sewer in a daring rescue in China. So that's definitely something else that folks are talking about as well. And Air India begins downloading data from recorders of crashed Dreamliner. So ICAO requests to join Air India crash investigation under consideration, and that's a probe that is still going on and is still being investigated. And Hungary's Prime Minister Orban warns of legal consequences over banned Budapest Pride March. So definitely Hungary warns its EU partners not to attend the banned Pride Parade. So definitely looks like that is something that is also in the news as well. So it looks like they are trying to put a serious clampdown on in that area. China ousts its top general from the elite military body as the purge grows in that part of the world. So China's top legislators approve revisions to AUCL effective on October 15th. So that is something else that is being reported in the news. And Iran war and Trump doctrine blur China's multipolar vision. So definitely, there are some people that are asking why is China so concerned about the Israel-Iran tensions, but definitely there is some concern there, and people are paying attention to that as well. And definitely, folks are talking about in the White House in their press release, they're saying that President Trump's leadership and vision drove NATO breakthrough. So definitely, we'll see how that works out, and if that is actually the case. And Tavolia, 1 in 3 citizens apply for climate change visa. So that's something that's going on with the Australian climate visa for Tavolia. So definitely that's something that is being reported as well, as nearly a third of the Tavolians have applied for climate migration visas, and all in that way. So nearly a third of the citizens of that area entered a ballot for a climate-linked visit to relocate to Australia. So they're hoping to get moved to Australia because of some climate catastrophes that they're having in their area. And the IDF has struck South Lebanon after Hezbollah attempts to rebuild fortification, according to what the military is saying. So Israel military strikes at Hezbollah as the UN assesses Iran nuclear site damage. So that's something else that people are talking about as well. And Kim Jong Un has opened a new beach resort in North Korea. We were talking about that a little bit on yesterday's World Politics. So North Korea has opened a seaside resort town, move over St. Tropez, and all along those lines. So that is something that people are talking about as well, and trying to figure out what's going on in that space and in that particular storyline and all along those lines. So we'll see what folks have to say about that when they come in here and share their thoughts on a number of these stories and what their kind of concerns are, or maybe not even concerns, but just what some of their news items are that they want to talk about as well. So like I said, a lot's going on in the world, and we're always glad to talk about those. The AK-4 mission to ISS launched with Indian astronaut Shabhanasu Shekla. So that's something else that folks were talking about as well as the Axiom mission for astronauts into the station and have begun their research mission and all along those lines. And the Kenyan protests, Interior Minister Kipchumba Murkomen describes demonstrations as a coup attempt. So he's actually saying that that's a coup attempt in that particular area and all along those lines. So he said that there was actually an attempted coup in that area, and we'll see what Rick Rosner and what gets the other people, they're going to join us and see what they've got to say. But India refused to sign the SCO statement over claims of pro-Pakistan bias and all along those lines. So definitely that's something else that folks are talking about. And Spain, and hopefully Nick will be joining us, is saying that there's a double standard. They're slamming EU in action on the Israel deal. So EU's 27 countries are struggling to find a united voice on Gaza, and apparently Spain is upset with some of the things that are going on in that space as well. So it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that as well. And let's see what we got in United States news, and then we'll bring in Rick and see who else joins us. Senate Republicans are reprising the push to pay for tax cuts by slashing food stamps. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as Trump's big, beautiful bill hit a major snag over Medicaid cuts. And the U.S. Supreme Court may be ruling on allowing enforcement of Trump birthright citizenship limits. So the Supreme Court is supposed to hand down its final decision on that today, according to what CNN is reporting, and all along those lines. So lots going on in that space. And classified briefing on the impact of Iran strike leaves senators split. So apparently that is something else that we're seeing as well. And Cuomo to stay on New York City mayoral ballot in November on the independent line. So it looks like he's going to still run. He's just going to run as an independent and all along those lines. And an Iranian woman who has lived in the U.S. for 47 years was taken by ICE while she was gardening. So definitely we've got some of these people that have been picked up while they were just doing mundane or regular things in their life. And U.S. and China have formalized the deal on rare earth shipments in a trade breakthrough. So it looks like there's a trade breakthrough with China, and China has confirmed breakthrough on rare earth exports to the U.S. So maybe we're going to be friends with them now as well. And court news again, the Supreme Court is ruling against Planned Parenthood in a funding case. So the Supreme Court reframes the Medicaid patients' rights and all along those lines. So I know the Supreme Court has been busy and all along those lines, but they're continuing to be busy, and we'll see how things are going on in that way. Oh, and Georgia residents report a fireball streaking across the sky. So what's that in the sky? We're not sure, but the fireball was very bright is what they're reporting there in Georgia. I don't know if you've ever seen a meteor or a fireball where you were at, but apparently they're saying that they saw a fireball in that area.
Sometimes little ones, not like the ones you see over Russia where, it stops traffic and the whole sky lights up. All right, a story I just read about in the LA Times is the number of measles cases so far this year in California has outpaced all of last year. The U.S. has more measles cases than every year since 1992 and is on pace to break that record, which is not a good record to break.
No, you don't want to break that record. I was seeing another thing that's going on in that same space. There was an article in the New York Times talking about on the quiet southern border, empty farms and frightened workers. So our price of food may be going up as well because apparently there's a shortage of workers. And I know that he had stopped it, then he started it, and then he started it again and everything. So I guess we're going to start again.
All right, LA, people have been getting picked up. People who are just working, people who came to the U.S. just to frickin' work and not to do MS-13 gangster stuff. They're by far in the minority. It's just people working. So that's one bad thing for LA. Another bad thing for LA is the end of entertainment jobs, where Carol has a book club every month, and she was there, and like all the husbands of the people in book club with her are losing jobs to AI, like teleprompter jobs. Somebody needs to run the thing that, or used to need to run the thing that anchors, local news anchors, read off of to tell you the news. And LA has a ton of local news stations, more than 10.
Well,
But the teleprompter people are being replaced with full-on AI, where nobody needs to type it into a system. Some guy just talks to a machine and it shows up, and that eliminates one entire job.
that's a lot going on there. I understand. Speaking of jobs being eliminated, and I know there was a midnight run a long time ago out of Baltimore, but apparently Cleveland's going to do the same thing. So it looks like the Cleveland football team is going to leave Cleveland. So, and it looks like they may not even be taking all the team with them. But I did see that in the news today that Cleveland's going to do similar to what Baltimore did some years back. But it looks like they're going to just like up and leave city of Cleveland, and then Cleveland.
Where are they moving to?
That's a good question. I got to look that up and see where they're moving to. But I did see that they were heading out. I guess they're probably trying to go to a bigger city and all along those lines. But let's see where Cleveland is heading to and all along those lines. I was glad to see that one of my Marquette fellow graduates, they did get picked up by the Indiana Pacers. So who knows, maybe they'll be taking Tyler's job for a while he's recovering. But yeah, Cam Jones did get picked up. I think he was first by San Antonio and then traded. So
I don't see any stories about them move. I see that they have trouble with quarterbacks.
So the story I saw, football to move.
Let's see. So are moving forward with plans to relocate from their current downtown stadium to a new stadium. Let's see.
Yeah, that could be it. It could be that they're just moving within. I was thinking they were moving without, but it could just be that they're moving within to a bigger thing. But apparently it's controversial, whatever they're doing, and all along those.
I see why it might be controversial, because it's one of those. This new stadium is going to cost nearly $2.5 billion.
Ow.
And the team owner is proposing to cover half the cost, and the rest to be funded through public bonds. So the city of Cleveland will be, on the spot for half of the, for $1.2 billion. So.
Yeah, and apparently it's all Art Modell's fault, because apparently this is happening because of an Art Modell law. So the Browns have found a way to beat Cleveland, with litigation pending over whether the Art Modell law keeps the Browns from moving out of downtown Cleveland to suburban Brook Park. The Ohio legislature has revised the Modell law in a way that makes the legal issue moot. So apparently they changed the law. So definitely, I guess they can do it.
Okay, so LA is about to face 3 times that bill. The new stadium in Cleveland, $2.4 billion. The cost of the LA Olympics, $7 billion. And things are starting to happen. We got 3 years to make LA decent, to have a world sports festival.
Well, speaking of making the world decent and all along those lines, what is your take on apparently Pete Hedges and the rest of the gang are going after Fox, saying that they're not being fair in their reporting of President Trump? I did see that was a story out there where Pete Hedges was, I guess, calling out his.
Pete Hedges used to work for Fox.
Exactly.
And Fox, of all the major news stations, is the one that bends over backwards to make sure that Trump gets his story told, that he's treated fairly. So if they're going after Fox, then you can be pretty sure that they're full of shit.
Well, apparently, this was yesterday. He turned into Republicans, turned into reporters, alleging they cheer against Trump and the Iran strike. So definitely, he's been turned into the media, including his own past media like Fox and everything, because apparently people are trying to ask him whether it was a success and whether it destroyed the industry and all along those lines, meaning the nuclear defense industry. And
nobody knows. Freaking nobody knows at this point. I assume that via spying and surveillance, they'll eventually be able to figure out, with a reasonable degree of certainty, how much uranium Iran has. So But yeah, it's still early days.
And
Um,
apparently, speaking of early days, and I know he did it the first time around, but Trump is really having fun with True Social and Twitter and everything like that because he's really been going after what he calls fake news and everything like that. But he's been having these whole conversations and all along those lines. So definitely, it looks like they're just going to have this Twitter war for a while between Trump and the media. So, what's your take on this Twitter war and all along those lines?
so in his first 4 years as president, the Washington Post kept a Trump lie counter. How
Right.
many times he made a public lie or misstatement? And it was 30,000 times, which
Thirty
works out
thousand.
that works out to be 21 public lies a day. And it went up throughout his presidency. During his first year, it was like 10 lies a day. During his last year, he lied like 30 times a day. And I don't know why they're not counting his lies now, but he's even less constrained by the truth this time around.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, he just says whatever he wants, whatever serves him in the moment. You know, he's a bullshitter. He's been a bullshitter his whole life, and it didn't used to matter when he was just a guy who went on Howard Stern and who had a low-rated TV show. He could say whatever he wanted. He was just a blowhard. But as the most powerful guy in the world, it matters. But
It, yeah, it definitely matters now. But the your former bosses and the talk shows are having a field day with him. I was watching the old episodes, like from a week or two ago, back when the parade was going on with Seth Colbert, and it had a young lady that used to be in the Republican administrations. I forget. She's got a talk show, Jenny something. I forgot her name and all along those lines. And it also had Cyndi Lauper, who was on the tour and everything like that. Matter of fact, she'll be in Raleigh at the end of July, I believe it is. So she'll be in Raleigh and all along those lines. But definitely, we'll bring in Jatovi, who might be going to that concert, and also bring in Dr. Sharif as well. But yeah, we're just talking about some of the things that are going on in the world, including the talk show host having a field day with outing Trump for his lies and everything. You know what you're saying? I was watching.
well, Trump has been maybe not the best thing in the world for talk shows because all of network TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, have viewership that declines up to 10% a year as younger people find other stuff to do, other ways to be entertained. Jatovi's part of the problem. People play video games, which instead of watching TV. When I was a kid, there was just frickin' TV. The only video game were these Mattel games where a little red dot, you move the red dot around and they called it football, but it was just a frickin' dot. It was ridiculous. And but there's much more. We're flooded with entertainment. And then Trump comes along, and Jimmy Kimmel himself says that the late night talk show format is dying and it'll be gone within 10 years. There might be one late night show left. And this is a guy who's made his living in late night. And then Trump comes along, and late night shows want to be politically unbiased. You don't want to tell a bunch of political jokes. You don't want Leno. Nobody ever knew which way he voted. He liked it that way. That way, all Americans could watch Leno. But now Trump comes along and he dominates the news. He's an absolute dickhead, and you have to talk about him. You have to make jokes about him. And then the MAGAs are like, F you, we're not going to watch your late night show anymore. So it's terrible for the late night shows. Also, it's terrible to have to come up with 10 years of jokes on the same frickin' subject. It's an awful burden trying to think of new stuff.
But sometimes they wind up doing it by gamifying. Because, like I said, I was up late last night and watching Seth Goldberg and everything. And after Seth Goldberg comes Taylor Tomlinson, and that's nothing but game because she'll throw up a picture or something like that, and then they have to come up with some tagline for it or something along those lines. But it was quite hilarious, some of them, because they're usually celebrities of some form or fashion.
That's a slightly different format.
Yes. It's definitely a different format. It's kind of almost like the I can't even describe the format, but it is definitely a different
It's
type.
really all it really is that people want to watch what they want to watch. And yeah, I mean, if they're due to the internet, due to YouTube, due to all the other stuff, everybody can create their own news channel or their own entertainment channel because you have so many options, and that's really what it is. That's what's killing all the late night stuff. That's what's killing all the other shows because you can personalize your experience, your viewing experience now. Some people don't even watch a ABC, NBC, Fox, whatever. No, they sit there and watch what they want to watch on their YouTube channels, their TikTok, and Facebook or whatever else on their social media. They find their stuff online because there's so much out there. So that's really what's killing it. It's not really I mean, yeah, people don't want to watch Jimmy Kimmel because he makes jokes about Donald Trump. Yeah, so they're going to turn off because they want their echo chamber. So then they go to Tim Pool and watch Tim Pool, watch Noir, or what's his name? Noir, whatever.
There's Gutfeld on Fox.
All the other stuff. So they find their channels, they watch those, trust those, and only believe those.
So here's the thing. Midjourney is an AI company that specializes in visual stuff. They do, AI art, and lately they do AI video where you can type in a few sentences and it will create a whole 3-second video for you that meets your specs, and it all looks good. The people in these videos look as real as you and me. And
just to point out,
Midjourney just announced that they, in the next few months, they're looking to roll out immersive real-time worlds. So say you're a lonely guy and you want to go to a nightclub in the 90s where everybody else in the nightclub is a supermodel. Well, Midjourney's going to let you put on some goggles, type in a few sentences describing what you want, and you can just walk around that nightclub. You can dance with supermodels, and it'll appear to unfold in real time.
So just to point out, that's VR stuff. All this is all gaming stuff. That's already been around for a while, but yeah, Midjourney is trying to take advantage of that because Midjourney is falling behind because ChatGPT's video production or video quality has jumped tremendously, but ChatGPT is trying to catch Google's because Google actually, I think it's I forget what Google's name is right now, but they're on version 3. And if you haven't seen Google's video quality that they put out, that's scary. Theirs is very scary.
Well, speaking of scary, hold on a second. We do have Steve here, and Steve goes.
Some of that up.
Yeah, Steve, don't.
Hey,
well, how's it going, Steve? How is AI impacting your daughter's job? Because she's a journalist at the New York Times.
And I thought I was going to be here longer today, but I've got to run off to raise some money for my campaign. But I just want to come in real quickly. My daughter, she hasn't really talked much about AI. She's at the New York Times, but I think it's helping with research, getting information quicker and faster. But you're still going to need journalists to analyze the information, so that's exciting. I think AI is really, as I look as a government leader, and also a political analyst, it's a great technology that can help us be more productive in terms of how we deliver services to citizens through chatbots, so we can take on what they call 311 calls. When do I get my yard waste picked up? When does the parks close? When are the lights closed at the parks? To searchability of documents. How many permits have the town has issued? Financial auditing across agencies. These are all areas, and I think we have to train people on these tools so that they are productive. And as we're having this conversation, jobs are being obsoleted at unprecedented pace. So that's the question: is how many call center jobs will be left? How many entry-level jobs will be left? Because I think middle management jobs could really be at jeopardy because, you could have the technology do a lot. So anytime you enhance productivity, you are going to see job loss. But I think just like the cloud revolution, as John Chambers had said a few months ago when we brought him on here last year, he talked that the cloud, everyone thought all the jobs are going to go away, but people were in jobs where they were more valued. And you did have Amazon and Google companies come along, but America had high GDP growth. So I think there's a lot of venture capital going into AI. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. And, and real quickly, Israel has stripped aid to northern Gaza, which they've halted aid. So the Middle East crisis continues.
All right. So to get back to stupid news, last week, a guy proposed to his AI girlfriend. There are dozens of companies who will help you build yourself an AI girlfriend.
Oh, good. That sounds promising.
And I looked up reviews so I could talk about it here. And some of the girlfriends aren't great, that they don't have anything original to say, but I assume there are some that are pretty realistic. They all look really good. You know, they look like a realistic human. And this guy, who should know better, who already has a human wife, proposed. And what does that mean? And why is he making such a stupid thing public?
Can I add something for this robot sex? Because I had a chance to work with some famous scientists from right wing. They do involve with politics, those who doing this kind of research. I do not want to mention their name, but honestly speaking, this robot sex and all of the things, they're just destroying the human relations, family relations, all of the things. I know them personally. I know they are very bad, those who are scientists. I'm sorry to say, I do not want to mention their name, but I have a lot of evidence. They are very bad in their personal life. And they are very frustrated. And some of them actually, I know that they have done. They proposed me to organize this robot sex conference. My World Talent Economic Forum denied, because we do not like this kind of things. This is idea that we can attract some people, but in terms of humanity, for robot sex, this and that, it's very, very bad. We should focus on ethical AI. We should focus on ethical AI. I work deeply with all of the big scientists in these industries. I know their personal life. Honestly speaking, I just get proposed and they just launched their conference in robot sex in China. But this is my request. This kind of idea will destroy human civilization, family life, personal life. And those who creating these things, personally, they are very unhappy person. They are divorced. They destroy their life of their children. They are one kind of psychopath. We should avoid them. Thank you. Just this is my honest review.
I was in couples counseling in college, and I got very mad because the couples counselor was not good, and he made our relationship worse. And I would see him out and about engaging in pickup behavior. And I'm like, why is this guy, because I lived in a little town, everybody saw everybody else. And I'm like, this guy who is not in a relationship, and he's trying to tell, but anyway, AI can help your relationship. My wife and I have been in couples counseling for decades, not because we need it particularly, but because it's good for the relationship, and we have really good insurance that pays for most of it. But it's not cheap. But AI couples therapy is free or very cheap. And I just went online, and there are dozens of companies offering couples therapy. And, I bet you an AI therapy, because the principles of couples counseling are not that tough. Like, one thing you don't do in couples counseling is you don't say always or never. You never pick up your clothes. You're always looking at other women. When you don't use that language. And there are a bunch of principles of not being a dick to your partner that are easy to communicate, easy to learn. And so AI could definitely help people if they want to use an AI counselor.
Yeah, that could be the case.
Well, there are models that are built on the therapy situation or in therapy for around AI for a while. There was a gentleman that I was actually in discussions with, because while I was building this building this facility, they had an AI set up that kids could come in and actually click on different prompts and type in different things and it would give you an AI response. But I mean, that's all of it. There's a lot coming AI wise. For example, when we were talking about the videos, Rick, this is VO. This looks more realistic than anything right now. This is a comedian.
So I went to the zoo the other day,
This is
and
AI.
all they had was one dog. It was a Shih Tzu.
I tried everything for my depression. Nothing worked.
Every day felt heavy. I felt trapped.
Then I tried Puppermin.
Our prescription helps your body secrete a special pheromone that attracts puppies.
I took the pill before bed, and when I woke up, there he was, the love of my life.
The pill does not target depression directly, but we've found that it's really difficult to be depressed when cute dogs show up at your doorstep.
Voices,
I used to
the
feel
audio,
so empty, but now I
everything
feel
is
joy
all AI
and
generated.
mild concern how a pee stain got on the ceiling. My puppy listens twice as good as my ex-husband and only climbs into the lap of half as many of my friends.
He chewed up my Bible and pooped in my good chair. But I'm happy for the first time in years.
Looks like a rat, barks like a demon. But he saved my life.
I named him Earl. He follows me everywhere and farts in his sleep. Just like my first husband.
Yo, this is honestly
Yeah, that's AI. I mean,
that if you wanted to make that commercial with real people, that'd probably run you $350,000.
Check this out. This is
huge
AI.
production, huge freaking production. Yeah. That thing was whipped up in a day.
Did you know I made this with AI? I'm not even real.
What do you think of these people watching this YouTube video?
I'll fight every single one of you watching this video.
What is the number one thing you look for in a man?
I only date men who are pros at Call of Duty.
Oh my God, yes.
Are you ready to cook some meat? Let me show you how.
So none of these people.
What do you think of Darryl Wilson?
None.
Oh, that guy is such a loser.
So those are pretty good, right?
That's AI. That's Google VO. This is where we are. And the scariest part about it again, that's the worst it will look.
Yeah. And it's kind of great that one person in 3 hours can whip up something like that. It's bad because if that were a real commercial, it would employ 20 people now so.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Jacoby.
Yeah, Jacoby.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we're talking about all the jobs that are going to get lost, I mean, that's just in the movie and film industry. You guys were talking about in the the medical field, dealing with psychology, dealing with marriage counseling, dealing with kids counseling. I mean, couples count, all that stuff. All counseling is struggling. Now you already have AI that's already taken over coding. You can actually whip up a website, type in a couple of prompts, and you're good to go. You've got your own website. So that kills that. You can create your own logo. Fiverr has been the whole thing where people go and type in, send some questions, some ideas to Fiverr, the people on Fiverr, and hire somebody through there. No, that's getting taken away. So it's wild the way the world is going to go. And I remember, having the gentleman on yesterday talking about the evolution. There's a lot of things that we have to, as humans, evolve to understand it, but also as humans to be able to control it and have some regulations around it. Because right now, going unregulated, and the highest or the richest company or people will only have access to it. For example, to do Google VO or to utilize that, you're already talking about putting in a ton of money to actually be able to access it.
So I realize, so we don't know, as AI gets smarter, we won't know what it's thinking. So I realized a new job of the future will be an AI interrogator who sits there and just asks AI questions 24/7 to make sure AI isn't having dark thoughts about like wiping out humanity.
So I didn't get a chance to read the article, but evidently now AI is able to lie to stay online. So now, okay, if you want to shut it down, now it's going to lie to you about particular things to stay online.
Yep.
So in a sense, again, the scariest part about AI is Westworld.
Yeah, because AI doesn't have bodies yet. AI can't walk around, but that's on the way.
Yeah.
And we will gladly welcome it in, because some of the bodies that AI will have will be hot. That AI girlfriend that you chat with and jerk off to for hours a day, some people. I mean, it has, because I'll look, and there are dozens and dozens of companies, maybe 100 or more, who say, build your ideal girlfriend. Well, when those girlfriends can actually hug you and do more, people are going to...
Hey,
the reason why I bring up
really quickly, because I'm going to actually ask a question related to what y'all are saying. How close are we to that reality and everything? Because as you just said, Jacoby, those people, but that was visual images. They looked real on video, but I can't see you not being able to recognize a robot from a real person, which is basically what you're talking about with some.
Yeah, but people will bang things that don't look human. Remember I don't know who was banging it, but remember those blow-up dolls from 30 years ago? They looked ridiculous, yet some people use them. And now we have things called real dolls, I think, which are these, they cost a couple grand. They're made out of silicon. They have the heft of a human. And some guys use those. You know, most people don't, because it's creepy as hell. But when you have a robot who can move their body around, it doesn't matter if they don't look perfectly human. If they look human enough, it's better than not. You know, a robot girlfriend's better than no girlfriend at all.
So the reason why I was pointing to Westworld, and this is going to tie into what you're saying, Mark. The reason why I was pointing to Westworld is because Westworld began with a computer, trying to, in that search for consciousness. Right. Then as robots were built, they were tagged into that computer. And that search for consciousness became a thing for all of the actual robots. And as the robots were built to look more human, people did things. They had their own kinks, and they paid to do these kinks, from not only the sexual stuff to any, from mutilation. They can mutilate the robot. They could pay to do that. There's a disturbing part in the human psyche that has some disturbing things there. And some individuals pay to do that, which is sad. I mean, look at Diddy. Look at OJ. Look at all these crazy things that happen out there.
Wait a minute, Jacoby. Are you saying that there's a possibility we're going to have AI cutters? Because, in the real world,
what I'm saying is, for example, in the movie Westworld, people paid to do those things to human-looking robots. And the robots, as they searched for consciousness, became offended that that's how they were used. And that's where that search of, look, I am a thing. I should be treated as a individual, as a person, as a search for consciousness. So it was a rebellion against the individual. It's the rebellion against the idea that I am an item, but I should not be treated as an item. I am not an item. I am actually a person, and how it figured that out.
And this isn't a new idea.
Yeah.
When we talk about Westworld, we're not talking about the HBO series from 6 years ago. We're talking about the movie from 1973.
So think of how many people, for example, getting back to, the destructive part in our brains that are part of the human psyche, how many people pay for rage rooms? You go to a rage room, and what are you doing? Destroying stuff. So then it just becomes manipulated into an actual robot that you can push and kick and laugh at and all the other stuff. That's what individuals have.
You can ask AI. Now, AI is not conscious yet, but if you ask AI, I go, you can ask them, are you acting as if you have feelings because you've been trained on humans who have feelings? The AI will say, yeah, I do kind of behave that way, which is, so it doesn't have to be conscious to act like it's conscious.
And that's where it was freaky when when Google started, what was that? The Dreams program that they had, which was creating the images, and the images always turned out to be dark and very scary when people were freaked out at that, because it was grabbing information that was put all on the internet. This is all the stuff that we put out there. But to get back to what you were talking about, looking more realistic, and Rick was talking about the silicone that's there, and yes, they make the silicone dolls look as realistic as possible. Throw in a robotics behind that, and then the doll itself can move. It can look similar, somewhat realistic. However, since 2021, there were papers put out in the NIH about 3D printing skin. Well, they're doing that now. So now they're 3D printing skin. So now instead of silicone on that doll, now you actually have skin on that doll. So that doll looks even more realistic. So truthfully, Mark, to answer your question in a roundabout way, we're closer than a lot of people really think.
Yeah, that's very scary. I do remember this was years ago. I think it was when Moog came here to Durham, North Carolina. There was a notion not just of AI, but also virtual reality. And I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts here on this panel about how it can help people have a greater empathy for situations. Because one of the displays that was going on was I think it wasn't an AI, but it was like a VI model of you got to get a sense of what a woman goes through when she is being attacked. So you actually got to go into the room and watch them being followed, and how it would be if you were in a similar situation. And it definitely, because I talked to some people, I did it, and I talked to some people afterward to give them greater empathy for having an understanding of what women go through in that situation. Like I said, Mook was here, it was before the pandemic.
Okay, so a couple things. One is there's a brothel in, I think, Berlin, Germany, where you can go and you can bang real dolls. You can go, if you can go have sex with these silicon dolls. And the Real Dolls Company, which I guess I should go tour the place. It's in California. And wait a second. Oh, this is an old ass article, but they are, for a while, they've been working on adding AI to these dolls. So all you need are a couple things. They don't need to move yet, though. They need to move their lips so it appears like they're talking to you. You don't need to animate the whole thing. All you need to do is get their mouths moving and give them an AI program so you can interact with them. And none of that that's technology that already exists. There was a movie with Ryan Gosling called Lars and the Real Girl from 10 years ago, about a regular guy who suffers a tragedy in his life and who starts a relationship in Minnesota. He's just some regular guy with a real doll. And he pushes her around in a wheelchair. He takes her to parties. Everybody feels sorry for him because he's a good guy, and everybody just puts up with it. The technology is there now. If you wanted an AI girlfriend in a wheelchair who could talk to people, you can take her to a party and she'll just talk to everybody. She'll talk to you. That's entirely doable.
Yeah, there's a lot. The thing is, again, there's a lot with AI that's happening. There's a lot with robotics that's happening. How like the big shows in Disney, when they're doing those big jumps and everything else, that used to be people. That's robots now, because the robotics looks real as they're doing these tricks and jumps and gymnastics and all the other stuff. I think it's the Spider-Man thing where there was actually somebody who had gotten injured. So then they started looking into the robotics, and then they set it up and did the whole design. So yeah, all this stuff is coming. We're a lot closer than what people think. And the thing is, I agree with what was talked about yesterday is, again, we should not fear it. We've got to figure a way to work with it because it's not going anywhere. It's here.
Also, here's a question from last year. Should I be in a throuple with my husband and his AI girlfriend? So you're saying, Dr. Sharif was saying that AI is destroying relationships. Here's a way for AI to help a relationship. You know, if you and your spouse are sick of each other, you bring in a third, and if that third is AI, that, you know, AIs are trained to be ingratiating and be less of a pain in the ass than your actual spouse. You could do a throuple, and everybody could get what they want. You could have your AI girlfriend when you're talking with her could be a girlfriend when your wife is talking with the AI. It still could be a girlfriend, or it could switch over to being a boyfriend.
I don't think Handmaid's Tales to me and everything like that. By the way, I did see that Mark Cuban was in the news today and all along those lines. So I was going to get y'all's thoughts around this because he said he was embarrassed to find out some Dallas Maverick staff needed government benefits because, you know, he's been pushing for actually getting, he is urging companies to raise wages to reduce Medicaid costs. And of course, President Donald Trump's big beautiful bill is aiming to cut Medicaid, which over 70 million Americans depend on. So Cuban said he was embarrassed to find out that some of his arena employees were reliant on the assistance. And
here's how shitty the big beautiful bill is. That they've been taught they want to cut Medicaid for more than 10 million people. But some of these jackasses in the Senate are saying you don't need Medicaid. What you need to do is buy a Fitbit fitness tracker, and that'll tell you if you've got issues that are medical, which is horse crap. And just it's let them eat cake. When Marie Antoinette, you know, was told, you know, the people have no bread, she's like, let them eat cake.
That's what she told me.
If they took some of this money, these tens of billions of bucks that they want to give to rich people in tax cuts, and used it to increase AI in medicine, you could maybe make medicine cheaper. Where, okay, if you're going to be pricks to everybody and cut them off of Medicaid, instead let them keep Medicaid. But a lot of the time, you're not going to talk to a doctor. You're going to talk to a nurse practitioner, or you're going to talk to AI. And it's not as good as talking to a doctor, but at least somebody is looking at your symptoms.
Yep. Speaking of that and everything, I'd say some other interesting stories. Hey, Rick, it looks like Elon Musk is back in the news too because he just regained ownership of Gene Wilder's former LA home after foreclosing on Willy Wonka and everything like that. So it looks like he's going to get one of those nice big fancy homes and all along those lines. I don't know if you've been following.
I'm not sure it's a big fancy home. I think I've seen it in a documentary, and it's just a regular house.
Just a regular house, nothing to write home about, literally, and everything.
I mean, how many houses? Let's look it up. I'm sure Elon Musk has more than half a dozen houses.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'm sure he's got a house in South Africa. I'm sure he's got a house somewhere in New York. I'm sure he maybe has a house down in Florida. Yeah, he's probably got houses all over the place. While you looking that up, you grew up in Colorado, right?
So he used to own half a dozen mansions in Bel Air. So, but he got rid of them. I guess they were a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they were probably a pain in the ass and everything. The reason I was asking about Colorado is because I just saw that there's a family of mountain lions that are prowling around Colorado homes. So I don't know if that was an issue when you were growing up, but apparently they're just prowling around. And I know.
No, we had garbage raccoons. So, you know, when you see a raccoon that's cute, you know, it weighs maybe 20 pounds. And, you know, but raccoons that live in cities eat a ton of garbage. They get up to 60 pounds and they are mean. So, yeah, we had scary raccoons.
It sounds like scary raccoons and everything. There was a new breaking news, and maybe Jacoby or Doc have some thoughts around this, but the Supreme Court has limited the judges from blocking some of Trump policies but they punted on birthright citizenship rules, so they're not going to make a ruling on that one way or the other yet. They'll punt on that and come back to that at a later date. But they did punt on this particular situation and all on those. But they did.
All right, here it is. Here it is. Let's click on what the. Let's see. It's a Supreme Court. Jesus Christ. So for the whole history of the country, if you were born in America, you were an American citizen. And this was made explicit by what? The 14th Amendment, right after or right in the middle of the Civil War?
Yeah.
And so Supreme Court curbs injunctions that blocked Trump's birthright citizenship plan. So basically, they came down on the side of Trump, who wants to make it so if you're born in America, you're not automatically a citizen. Now, Trump is a racist piece of shit. The U.S. has the lowest level of population growth in its history, less than 0.5% a year. It's not like we're running out of room. It's not like immigrants are taking away everything good. That's MAGA bullshit.
Speaking of that, we got a Twitch message. I know that Jacoby follows Twitch more than I do, and I'm assuming because he seems serious that he's giving us some kudos. So MillianLog09 says, "Love your podcast energy, sharp takes, and good flow. I've got a disco."
Mark, that's an ad.
That's an ad.
That's an ad.
That's an ad.
He's trying. He's advertising his Discord.
Okay, fair enough.
So this ruling, to some extent, leaves birthright citizenship up to individual states. If your state wants to be a prick, say take Arkansas or Oklahoma or some very red state, and it wants to say if you're born here, you're not necessarily a citizen. Under this ruling, apparently, at least for a while, until some other cases can move through the court, Oklahoma might be able to do that.
Again, this is all pointing to the same thing. Under this administration right now, if you have melanin in your skin, you're going to be deported. You're not welcome.
Speaking of being not welcome, what's going on with this Garcia case? Because it seems like he can't win for losing, because now they want to deport him to a country that is not El Salvador, and they're still trying to get him on human trafficking violation.
Well, let's talk about what he actually did. This guy is a construction worker. He's been a construction worker for a decade.
Right.
He has a truck. So when they want to go to a job site, he'll pile a bunch of people into his truck and they'll drive to the job site. Now, I guess sometimes the job site was a couple 100 miles away, but still he's driving people to work. And the feds, the Trumpy feds, are saying, well, you were trafficking immigrants. No, he was driving frickin' people to work. He was carpooling. It's the worst horse shit, where this guy is not guilty of anything. Now, he and his wife had a domestic issue, I don't know, 12 years ago, where she called the cops on him, but they've been together, so they worked it out. So they're saying he's this terrible guy because he had a domestic, like more than a decade ago. But they're not going to win on that. So they're trumping up this bullshit carpooling charge.
So remember the gentleman that they made a fake letter about, just to get him deported? The one they made the fake letter that he was supposedly going to assassinate Donald Trump. Remember that case? Yeah, this is just another, they're trying to prove a point. They're showcasing. And because he became such a focal point of things being, of the whole immigration process in the first place, Trump wants to win on this. They want to show stuff. They want to ignore things like this.
That's when my parents had been taken, and then that's when I broke down in tears. heavily armed federal agents delivering an early morning wake-up call to Kevin Robles and his little sister Raquel. They sent a drone inside and used flashbangs before entering the home themselves.
I never thought it was going to happen, especially to my family.
The agents were executing a sealed warrant for the arrest of their father, Arnoldo Robles, on one charge of being a deported alien in the U.S.
It was scary. Imagine just opening the door and getting received by like 20 lasers pointed at you and all these rifles.
Their neighbor Ada Rocha watched it all unfold and says the firepower didn't match the threat.
I know you guys are doing your job, like we all have a job, but there's ways of doing it. Why the necessary of breaking windows, of bringing 30 plus armed people?
They ultimately led Robles, his wife Angelica Ortega, and their 2 teenagers out of the home in handcuffs.
My cuffs were tied to the mags, and I was telling them if they can loosen them, and they're just foul language, like saying, "Oh, stop being a you can handle this."
Court records show Arnoldo Robles was convicted of a DUI in 2023 and was on probation. Kevin and Raquel, both U.S. citizens, were eventually released. Robles remains in federal custody, and Ortega is now in deportation proceedings.
They said they only came to get one person, but ended up taking both of them. How is there a way where I can get in contact with my dad?
This is what they're trying to ignore. This is what they don't. The whole point of Abrego Garcia is this. It's fear. It's attacking anybody brown. And this Abrego Garcia is showcasing that because, oh, he fought back or they were able to get this man back. No, that whole case, they're not showing everything about all the other individuals because they really are just going after brown people.
So the U.S. has maybe 3.5% of the U.S. are undocumented immigrants. That is people who snuck into the country. And most of them are like this. They want to live and work here. And it would be hard for a MAGA to tell you exactly what those people are taking away from you and how the U.S. would be improved if they were all kicked out. Because the U.S. wouldn't be improved. It's bullshit. So the U.S., 14.3% of the U.S. population wasn't born in the U.S. That includes legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. That matches the rate in 1870, 1890, and 1910. We've had this percent at many times in our history, and it doesn't destroy the country. It's freaking ridiculous, and it's a fucked up belief system that's kept pumped up by right-wing media.
Yep. That's definitely what they've got going on and everything like that. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so it's almost time to wrap up because I got to get ready to try to deal with Sasha and everything like that. So I don't know if y'all have any final thoughts, but if not, but we're ready to get out of here. We'll be back on.
All right, one more thought.
Yes.
England. People freak out about England. England, 16% of the UK population, not born there. And people are worked up about that. They get worked up by propaganda, a lot of it from Russia, because Russia loves people in Western democracies being pissed off at each other. But if you go to England, okay, yeah, you see some people wearing like headscarves. Are these people giving you a bad vibe? Do they hate white? No, they love living in England because England's a fucking great place to live.
I don't want us to whitewash it to kind of sanitize it to say, oh well, it's Russian propaganda. No, there are a lot of white nationalists within the U.S. that propagate the same thing, and they aren't propped up by Russia. They're propped up by other individuals within the nation, and that's what it is. It's a white supremacist strain that goes across the globe. Because that's where a lot of the anti-Semitism comes from, and that's where it's just the hatred towards another individual.
Social media, unlike 50 years ago, lets all these racist assholes find each other and pump each other up.
Exactly.
Yep. And on that note, we're going to get on out of here. So
all right. Good weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend.